This year's Franschhoek Literary Festival program is live and we're told bookings are open. The 2023 program showcases a compelling and content-rich program that's been curated with a focus on books published in the last year. To give us a bit more insights on this festival, let's bring in Elitha from Sandt, who's the director of the festival. She joins us via our video link, I believe, from the Western Cape, probably Cape Town, if I'm correct. Elitha, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time to speak to us. My understanding is that you also have guests potentially as part of this festival joining virtually, which means you can really open this up to people who supposedly are not even in the country.
Absolutely. So we have the participants. Let me first say good afternoon, Ayanda, and thanks for having me, and a very good afternoon to your listeners as well. We have, I just forgot your question. Sorry, Ayanda.
Not a problem. I was just pointing out how the virtual element of this festival allows you to really open it up. I understand that you'll even have some speakers potentially from as far as the UK, England?
That's right. So the guests are the participants in the festival. We have 10 international authors. 2 of them will be joining us in Franschhoek. And then the others, because of COVID and the restrictions, we were forced to go hybrid, and now we're able to use that. And so we have 8 others joining us virtually. And we'll have someone in the room, though, facilitating the discussion with those joining us virtually.
Yeah.
And to say that of our international authors, we also have some continental authors joining us. And so we're quite pleased that we can have those from our continent speaking to us as well.
Yeah, it does sound exciting, especially because, just if you'll indulge me, my own personal journey with books has only become a whole lot richer when I felt like I was reading about people who shared a very similar life experience with mine, and that typically is people on the continent. How much of a focus is that for you as you curate which authors you want to be part of this festival?
So, one, for the literary festival and for books in general, one has to look at who your audience is, and so we specifically curate towards the audience that frequent the festival. And our audience mostly like biographies, and so we do have a number of biographies at the festival. In terms of continental, we have, for example, Deepo Yolan, who is a Nigerian, and he wrote the book, Africa is Not a Country. And Johnny Steinberg will be interviewing him, and that's quite interesting, because he deals with all the stereotypes that the West has of Africa in a hilarious way and also in a serious way, specifically starting, which I think is very important for the history of Africa, starting with the Berlin Conference, where the West basically chopped up Africa, irrespective of the cultures that existed and the families that existed. They just decided that they're going to cut it up without giving heed to any of those kind of things. So that's very important for us as Africans.
Right. You know, what I find typically is that book festivals are so exciting for people who are into books anyway. And sometimes the danger is that it just reinforces these enclaves of readers without necessarily being able to break through some of those barriers, let's call them. I wonder to what extent do you feel like we're winning that fight through these kind of festivals?
So it is, South Africa is a very small reading market, as you've just said. The book is also quite diverse. The audiences are as diverse. And so in terms of marketing the product, which is the book, it's a very difficult and complex one. The market consists of various pockets, and they need different content and different kinds of festivals to attract new audiences. So you can't, for example, set up a high-end festival and expect new readers to enter. That being said, our program is quite wide, so we have a wide-ranging program with different content in it, from current affairs to memoirs to sports and adventure to addiction to everyday occurrences. I was listening to your slot earlier that spoke to gender-based violence and some of the cultural norms and so on. And so, for example, we have African author, Nigerian author, actually joining us, our Nose Odafin. And she specifically, her novel speaks to the issue of cultural norms, the patriarchy, and also violence against women. And so we have different books that come through. We have Healing and Forgiveness. We have motivational stories, for example, Louisa Zonda, who's the mother of Rikirik, the rapper Rikirik, who committed suicide. And she shares a story with us of grief and healing and how she met him when she summited Mount Everest, and she wrote to him every day. And then that transpired into the book. So there's a lot of different topics that we cover that allows different people to have inroads basically into the festival. Lots of inspirational stories, some light and funny stories with like Sishle Kumalo, who wrote Milk the Beloved Country.
Right.
And so there's quite a diverse range of authors, as I said, international, continental, local, across race and cultures that are at the festival. And so there is somewhere something for everyone to basically find. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to ask you a question that I'd hate to be asked myself, so you'll be forgiven. I wonder to what extent you feel that festivals like this sometimes, maybe even inadvertently, end up getting some kind of ideological slant to them. And what I mean by that is that, we listen to the kind of speakers who would have a certain ideological viewpoint of the world, would probably agree around certain concepts around, society, et cetera, et cetera. Is that something that you guard against? I mean, as an example, just to ask my long-winded question, what's happening in Uganda is, according to some people, a violation of human rights, and there are people, especially in that country, who believe that what they're doing is correct. Would a festival like yours have space for both?
It should have space for both, because the book is really around bringing different perspectives in. And so we do match people with different perspectives on a session, because it leads to richer engagement and getting more out of those kind of sessions. And so we are open to those kinds of sessions, and we have to do that. And therefore, as I said, we have quite a wide-ranging authorship that's part of the festival to do that. You were speaking about different viewpoints and opinions. For example, I'm just thinking of one, what we know is going to be quite a controversial session at the festival, which is Prisoners of Love. And Johnny Steinberg is the author, and it deals with the marriage of Winnie and Nelson Mandela. And there's quite shocking new revelations that's coming out of that probably opposes what we know and what we think of both Winnie and Madiba. So have to make space for those, and information is important, and we need to acknowledge that the viewer or the reader is intelligent enough to draw their own conclusions instead of wanting them to, or presenting a particular conclusion to them.
Fascinating stuff. Elitha van der Sandt, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. She's the director of the Franschhoek Literary Festival, which is going to take place sometime this year. Once again, thanks for your time.